The next thing for you to do is to actually go back to the heel, and then you will notice that you will have gaps here. Okay. So what you need to do is to simply use a yarn needle and to close that gap. So after you close the toe, we need to fix a bit of the heel, because you will notice that there's going to be a gap. And the reason for this gap is because we skipped 2 stitches in the main part of the stocking. So you just take a bit of the second color, in my case it's white, and put it through a yarn needle. Okay. And you can have your secondary hand sort of inside your stocking. Okay. And then we're going to stitch it from, let's say, from this corner here, and then pull through that one. Okay. Just simply, it's just weaving it, stitching it so that the gap disappears. Leave a bit of yarn there, and then do it a second time. So we want to mimic sort of mimic a single crochet stitch, which looks like it's got 2 legs. I see 1, 2. Okay, the important thing is that you're trying to close that gap. So you work around that gap. Don't make it too tight that you don't want to make a obvious dimple to your stocking. Just tight enough that you're actually closing the gap. So I think this is almost my final stitch. And then I can move this to the other side of the stocking, which is the inside part. Put it to the other side. So you want to hide it there. Of course, there's that other loose end of your yarn that we started with. So you take a crochet hook and you try to weave that loose bit to the other side. Okay, I'm going to go to the other side, inside part, turn that around. Okay. So you might be wondering how come I've got 4 strands here. So it is the two of those strands come from what we just did. We weaved in the corner of the heel. The other 2 strands probably is when we were making the heel part. If you're not sure, like I'm not sure which strands go to where, I'm just going to tie knots on all 4, just to be on the safe side. But don't tie it so tightly that you can see dimples on the other side of the stocking. Okay, obviously the longer strand belongs to the one we want to weave in. And then we just snip off enough so that when we're using the stocking it's not obvious. It is in the inside part of your stocking, so you won't be able to see it from the outside. Okay. Let's check the other side if it makes sense, and it does make sense. Okay, I went on ahead and did the other side of the heel. Okay, that's closed already, there's no gaps there. So that's your toe, that's your heel. Okay, 2 sides of the heel that you need to close the gaps. And the next thing we need to do is to make the cuff of our stocking. So it will be different from the pattern, and I would recommend you start from the back side of your stocking. Okay, so that would be aligned with your heel. Okay, it doesn't really matter, but I recommend that you do. In the end, it won't really matter. Okay, so your heel, you just fold your stocking like so, and then you get the back edge of that, like the cuff part or the top part of your stocking. And I would take your second color, or any color you want to use, so for my case it's white, and I am going to actually work the other side, which is from the inside. Insert your hook from the inside, attach your yarn, okay, and then chain, and then single crochet stitch. Okay, so it's going to be slightly different from what we're used to, where instead of the outside part or the correct part of the piece facing you, it's going to be the inside part facing you. Okay. The reason is that the cuff goes that way, so the right side of the cuff, okay, when you straighten it up, happens to align with the wrong side or the inside part of the stocking. So we're going to work in single crochet stitches throughout. Okay, so I've made single crochet stitches around for our first row for our cuff. So I simply slip stitch through the first single crochet. Remember that the cuff is worked on the wrong side of the main stocking. The next few rows I am going to be using a half double crochet stitch. Maybe I'll make 3 rows, maybe 5 rows. That really depends on your personal preference. Okay. So I'm going to use a double, or rather a chain 2 as my turning chain for my half double crochet row. So half double crochet, just as a reminder, we're going to yarn over, insert your hook in the same stitch, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 3 loops on the hook. So just keep making the half double crochet all throughout. Alright, so at this point we are going to finish our cuff, and I have just made 5 rows of half double crochet stitches. So at the end of that, you close your last row, and then you can make chain 2. For this particular turning chain, I am going to count this as a double crochet stitch, and we want to work 5 double crochet stitches in the same stitch. So since we already have 1, we are going to put in 4 more. So this edging is called a shell stitch or a shell edging. So after you make your 5 double crochet stitches, You're going to skip one stitch and you're going to work a single crochet in the next stitch. You're going to skip one stitch again and you are going to work your 5 double crochet stitches in the next stitch. So skip that one, work in the next one. And then you skip one stitch again, work a single crochet stitch in the next stitch. So that's the pattern. You create a shell by working 5 double crochet stitches in the same stitch, same space, and then you skip a stitch and then you work a single crochet in the next one. And then you skip another stitch again and then you make your shell stitch. So the next one is we're going to skip that stitch and make a shell using 5 double crochet stitches. Okay, and then we're going to close this row with a slip stitch at the top of your chain stitch and fasten off. Okay. And then you can turn your cuff down and then fold it around here. It's like it's between the single crochet stitch row and the first half double crochet stitch row. Right. What you can do is, instead of just cutting this straight away, you can use a length of it to stitch your cuff flush to the main part of your Christmas stocking. So leave a bit of length of yarn before you stitch the cuff. So I went on ahead and got myself a yarn needle with the loose end of our yarn. You can just make a chain there and a loop so that doesn't unravel. And we're going to make sure that's folded nice and neatly. We're going to make a few stitches just so this cuff here doesn't unfold. So just a few stitches, and not too tightly, just tight enough so that it doesn't unravel or it doesn't flap loosely. Okay. And you can follow the shell stitches. And then finish it by weaving your yarn needle through some of this half double crochet stitches. So this is how I tuck in my yarn most of the time, so I'm hiding the loose ends, also securing it at the same time. Alright, there's one last thing that we need to do, which is to make a loop. We need to put a loop here. Okay. So just take a bit of same color yarn or whatever color you prefer, and almost at the same place where we started to make your cuff. You join your yarn, okay, with a slip stitch, and then you're going to chain stitch. Let's start with 20 and see how it goes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna say we probably need longer than 20 chains. Okay, so that might be enough. Okay. I like mine slightly longer. So this is about 35 chains, and I'm going to close the loop by, you can go back to the same spot that we created our join, or you can go to another one very close to it. Remember, you have this starting end of your yarn. You can tuck that in just to secure it, and then you can make a single crochet stitch. Okay. Sort of turn over your work, and then you're going to work in single crochet stitches throughout your loop. Alright, and you want to end with a single crochet stitch into the edge connecting the cuff and the main part of your Christmas stocking. Alright. So essentially the loop is created by chain stitching, and I use 35 chains. That is really up to you how long you want it, but it's a nice length. I can put my hand through that. And then after you make your chain stitch, make sure you close that by attaching that bit of yarn to the main part of your stocking, and then turn your work and then create or work in single crochet stitches for every chain. And make sure you secure your stitches at the end of it. Now, if you notice, there are going to be loose ends. The nice thing about this Christmas stocking is that you can hide stitches in two places. Either you can hide them between the cuff, and the stocking. That's one place to hide your loose ends. Or inside your stocking. So this yarn here, which I have, That actually came from when we started our stocking, the beginning of our stocking. You could use your crochet hook and weave your crochet hook through a few stitches, okay, and then yarn over and then pull that loose yarn through. Okay. See, so it's like weaving your loose yarn through some stitches and then cut that loose bit of yarn. So this is our Christmas stocking. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments or to get in touch with me either in our Facebook group or on our website, chriscrochet.co.uk. Alright, happy holidays. Bye.